agency and secret police known as the Ministry of State Security. Yes, I do put source links in there.
Actually, just a heads up, Alex. We're live now. Just a heads up, and welcome everyone. Just having a discussion with Alex. I sent out an invite to George. Hopefully, he's able to join us tonight because it's 8:35 out on the West Coast where George is. But he is a busy man, so I'm not sure if he'll be able to join us tonight. But I have sent out an invite. But yeah, I'll put my screen share up here, Alex, just so the people can see your article.
And I'll also go into Jeremy Lai, the owner of Apple Media. I'll just let you know he's a confirmed Roman Catholic. Yeah, that's the one. Do you want me to start, Eric?
Make sure I'm just setting up. I was closing my window here. Just don't want noise coming in from the outside. Yeah, you can start. Actually, just right before you, just to tie in on the subject of China, just because we're definitely seeing the Jesuits kind of create a new Cold War narrative between the United States and China. But there was this interesting doctor just came on Tucker Carlson's show just a couple days ago. I'm not sure if you saw that. It was a Hong Kong doctor who was affiliated with Jesuit-trained Steve Bannon. To pull up the doctor's name, but she claimed that her name is Dr. Li Meng Wan.
Oh, Li Meng Yan.
Oh, Li Meng Yang. Yeah, so she's and again, I think this is like this. It's half truths, but it's because she doesn't bring up how Jesuit-trained Fauci in the U.S. Funded a lot of the coronavirus research that was taking place in Wuhan. But she went on Fox News and was saying that the coronavirus, the Communist Party created the coronavirus in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And to me, this is kind of just tying into the Jesuit narrative of kind of creating like a new Cold War between the U.S. and China. And Taiwan is going to be obviously a big staging base in this, and Hong Kong. And the Jesuits are heavily entrenched in both Taiwan and Hong Kong.
Can I add that there are some people on Twitter saying that Li Meng Yan is actually a Chinese intelligence apparatus asset or one of the agents?
That'd make a lot of sense because even in this interview, and I recommend people watch it, like you can see her, she's constantly like veering to the left and right, like off camera, which is kind of looking like she's reading a script. And she is documented to be connected to Steve Bannon, the Jesuit trained at Georgetown. Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon has been like promoting this kind of narrative of a war with China for the last 4 years.
Can I also add? I think George lives in California, right?
Yeah, George is California.
Okay.
I think specifically Sonoma County, California, but yeah.
Okay. In California, the Chinese intelligence apparatus has a heavy presence there, if you know what I'm saying. The Jesuit-controlled Chinese intelligence apparatus in California is mainly located in San Francisco, or as Johnny Cerrucci likes to call it, San Francisco.
Well, I'm saying San Francisco, of course, is like probably the most Jesuit-controlled city in the United States, which would make a lot of sense. That's where the Chinese Communist Party is heavily entrenched.
And the Chinese intelligence apparatus is also heavily connected with the Democrats and the Republicans, just letting you know. And are you familiar with Dianne Feinstein?
Oh, the papal court Jew senator from California.
And I think around 2013, one of her assistants was of Chinese descent. He was exposed as an intelligence agent working for the Chinese intelligence apparatus, apparently.
Oh, that's very interesting. Well, this is more. There's more proof that, like, just like how the same kind of theater played out with the Soviet Union, where you had the Jesuits controlling both sides. It's the same thing's happening here with China now.
And then
we're at the highest levels of government, like they're working together and they've infiltrated each other, but they're giving this illusion to the masses that the U.S. and China are at war with each other, just like how they did it with Soviet Russia.
And on the Republican Party side, you've got Mitch McConnell, who's also rumored to have ties with the Chinese intelligence apparatus, while his wife, Elaine Chao.
Yeah, I believe she's the current Secretary of Transportation.
Correct.
She was honored by the Jesuits with an honorary degree at Georgetown recently, which people can check out. And I think it's very interesting too that it came out that the Communist Party was the Chinese Communist Party was donating funds to the Jesuit Georgetown University student association. And of course, they have like a Confucius Institute at Jesuit Georgetown, and there's Confucius Institutes all over the West, which is another way how the Chinese Communist Party infiltrates Western culture. Like there's a Confucius Institute at the university I went to, Brock University in St. Catharines.
It's not just the west coast of the U.S., which is where the Chinese intelligence apparatus is entrenched. I think where British Columbia is in Canada.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're heavily even like when I went there, last time I went to BC, just because I can't really drive there from where I am in Canada. We have to fly. The last time I was in BC, I was a kid, but even like when I was a kid, I noticed how much Chinese culture was present in Vancouver. They have statues of Chinese people downtown. Chinatown is very big, and you just see lots of Chinese people around Vancouver.
And
I'm just saying, I noticed that though, even as like a child visiting, like as a tourist.
And on the east coast of the U.S., the Chinese intelligence apparatus is mainly entrenched in New York and Washington, D.C., just letting you know. Oh, hello?
They definitely got like a triangulation of infiltration, and they used the same Jesuit motto of the ends justify the means. I think that's very interesting. Like, that's actually like from what I've seen, that's like the official kind of motto of like Marxism. Like Stalin loved to say the ends justify the means. Jim Jones, the ends justified the means for him. Fidel Castro. All these historical communist movements love that phrase, the ends justify the means. I'm just mentioning that because that's a distinctly Jesuit phrase.
Oh, yes.
And of course, all people have to do is read the Jesuit oath, and you'll see that the Jesuits will do whatever it takes to further their political agenda.
And in regards to the Chinese intelligence apparatus, I might as well explain the history of it, because it is much better that the organization itself is actually better than the Catholics in action.
Actually, and I think you bring that up here in this post, which I'm now screen sharing.
Correct.
So definitely, if you want to go into the history of Chinese intelligence apparatus.
Okay, the Chinese intelligence apparatus existed as early as the 1920s, when Zhou Enlai was living in Paris, in France. He had some kind of spy group going on in Paris at that time. And around 1924, when he returned to Canton, what is known today as Guangzhou, he was working at the Whampoa Military Academy, which at that time was controlled by the Kuomintang. Zhou Enlai was the head of the propaganda department at the Whampoa Military Academy. Notable people included at the
just Alex, and I'll just say for people unaware, the Kuomintang was the army that was headed up by Chiang Kai-shek, the fascist demagogue who was very close to the Vatican and international commerce. But Chiang Kai-shek was the head of that movement, if people want to look into him. And actually, just with Chiang Kai-shek, I found there was a Jesuit priest that was actually very close with him, a French Jesuit, Father Juliet, or Joliet, S.J. And while you're talking, I'll bring up that source document. Sorry, keep going, Alex.
Okay, close to when the Kuomintang and the Chinese communists had their split around 1926 or 1927, Zhou Enlai's own spy agency was already called Tiki. And in 2017, Zhou Enlai's spy agency Tiki celebrated its 90th anniversary, which was reported by the Chinese communist-controlled state media Global Times. And there is also another part or component to the Chinese intelligence apparatus, which is called Teru, founded by Kang Xing. Both Zhou Enlai and Kang Xing were actually part of Jesuit-controlled Mao Zedong's inner circle, and they were heavily involved in the Chinese Communist Party's espionage operations at the time. And
this is great information. Keep just keep laying it out there. If you
now
in front of you, I'm pulling up the name of this particular Jesuit here that was close with Chiang Kai-shek. To me, it's amazing how they controlled both sides of this revolution. They installed the communists, and then they essentially gifted Chiang Kai-shek Taiwan, which which to this day is essentially just like a branch of the Vatican and the Pentagon.
Oh yes.
And of course, people are aware the Pentagon, the headquarters of the U.S. military, was designed by a papal knight of Malta and a knight of the Holy Sepulchre, John McShane, who was also educated by a Jesuit at St. Joe's. It's kind of it, and just keep going, but just Taiwan, I'm very confident that it will come into play, like in the kind of current Cold War we're seeing between China and the U.S. Taiwan will be the Jesuitical center ground that the conflict through which the conflict will emerge. Probably Hong Kong as well.
Okay, the Chinese Communist Party's espionage system has changed name more than 3 times during the last century. One of it's actually started out as I need to find the hang on, I need to find that post which I in 1939 it became the Central Department of Social Affairs, and in 1949 it changed its name after the Chinese communists were victorious in China after the Second Civil War. It changed its name to the Liaison Department, and in 1955 it changed its name to the Central Investigation Department, and in 1983 it became what it is known as today as the Ministry of State Security. Now, what is known about the Chinese intelligence apparatus is that it operates in a similar degree to the Jesuit order, which they rely on is complete secrecy, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, even like right on the Wikipedia, it says here that the Chinese government gets they use double agents. The use of non-traditional intelligence assets is codified in Chinese law. Article 14 of China's 2017 National Intelligence Law mandates that Chinese intelligence agencies may ask relevant institutions, organizations, and citizens to provide necessary support, assistance, and cooperation. Honey tapping and compromat are also common tools of Chinese intelligence services.
It's something
yeah, that's very Jesuitical, though. Like
really
very Jesuitical.
They haven't.
Actually, while you're bringing that up, I don't know if you've heard this name. This is the name of the Jesuit priest who was very close with Chiang Kai-shek and was very involved in Chinese politics in general. But it was the Jesuit priest Robert Jacquinot, S.J., Robert Jacquinot de Bessange. He says he was a French Jesuit this is coming from Wikipedia. He was a French Jesuit who set up a successful model of safety zones that saved over. They claim he saved over 500,000 Chinese people during the Second Sino-Japanese War. And then he acted here as president of the China International Famine Relief Commission during the 1932 Battle of Shanghai. This guy was very involved with Chinese politics. I know he had a special relationship with Chiang Kai-shek. I believe this is cited in a book here that I'm just pulling up. Yeah, right here, the Jacquinot Safe Zone. This goes into his relationship, I believe, with Chiang Kai-shek. I first saw this accusation actually from a Nazi, believe it or not, a Nazi who is also a Catholic priest, Joseph Hartle. But I found this in a U.S. military interrogation report from 1947. But he says here that, where did he mention Chiang Kai-shek? It was on this page. He said that there was like a goal of Vatican intelligence to reach out to the Chinese through, right here. So he said a goal of Vatican diplomacy, and this came from a Nazi Catholic priest, Albert Hartle, definitely an insider to the Vatican's geopolitical aims. He said the Vatican wanted to establish contact with Chiang Kai-shek through Jacquinot, who is this Jesuit priest right here, Robert Jacquinot. People can see him on my screen. And there's this book here that was written on Jacquinot. Not sure if this goes into his relationship with Chiang Kai-shek. Oh yeah, it mentions Chiang Kai-shek a bit in this book. So I'll have to give this a read as well too.
No.
And then if this guy was involved with famine commissions, that's a famine relief commission is a perfect cloak for intelligence activities. I'm sure this guy was very involved with Chinese intelligence as well.
Highly possible. Another thing I would like to add is that, you know how in one of the past streams of Johnny Cerrucci where I exposed the Hong Kong democracy movement as controlled by the Vatican?
Yeah, that was great research. If you want to go into that tonight, I'd be happy to go into that because that was great research by you, showing that movement was completely controlled opposition. Almost every single top figure of the Hong Kong democracy movement ties back directly to the Roman Catholic Church and the CIA in Georgetown.
Now, it's not just the CIA that runs the Hong Kong democracy movement. The Chinese intelligence apparatus runs it as well, just letting you know. I'm going to start off with Martin Lee because he's one of the central figureheads. Martin Lee's his father, who is now deceased. His father was actually friends with Zhou Enlai, one of the founders of the Chinese intelligence apparatus. Yeah, this man has. It the New York Times has an article saying about it as well. Hang on, I've got the New York Times article on me, so now it's from an article called, it's called The Father, it's a New York Times article called The Father of Democracy, Quotes Between Hong Kong's Extremes. And that particular bit where it admits that Martin Lee's father was actually friends with Zhou Enlai. It actually says the elder Mr. Lee, who is actually Martin Lee's father, had studied with Zhou Enlai, the first premier of communist China. Though the two men had vehement political differences, they remained cordial, Mr. Lee has recalled, or Martin Lee has recalled. And after the Chinese Civil War, when China fell to the Chinese communists, Martin Lee's father and family fled to Hong Kong. And Martin Lee's father always shifted houses in Hong Kong because he didn't want to be recruited by Zhou Enlai. But instead, they got to Martin Lee, and in recent years, Martin Lee has been exposed as an asset or agent of the Chinese intelligence apparatus as well. Yes, this is the man who founded, the previous man. Yes, Zhou Enlai is the man who's one of the founders of the Chinese intelligence apparatus.
And you're saying this goes back to 1927?
Correct.
That and Martin Lee's father was in close connection with Zhou Enlai.
Martin Lee's
admitted by you said the source for this even came from like the New York Times?
Correct.
Wow, that's a big admission. We'll dig up the Times article so people can see that for sure. And this is right on Martin Lee's Wikipedia page. It admits that he's a devoted Roman Catholic who's close friends with the Cardinal from Hong Kong, Cardinal Joseph Zen.
Correct.
So Martin Lee, I'm sure his father also came from a Roman Catholic background as well. His father, who is close with Zhou Enlai.
Correct.
So this is more powerful proof that they're working together at the highest levels, creating this new Cold War narrative. Just like the U.S. and the Soviet Union were never actually against each other. And if you read books such as like Anthony Sutton's National Suicide, you see that the U.S. built the entire Soviet economy. Very, very much like how like today the U.S. has completely, not just the U.S. but the West has completely built up modern communist China with technology and allow Western corporations to go in there and do technology transfers. The whole nine yards. This is great information.
May I also add, Jimmy Lai has also been exposed as an agent or asset of the Chinese intelligence apparatus as well. And another one who's also been exposed is Agnes Chow. Agnes Chow is a Roman Catholic, and she's one of the activists in the Hong Kong democracy movement.
And that was just the other name there, Agnes Chow.
Yeah.
And she's one of the leaders of the Hong Kong democracy movement. And just for people, just to clarify, the current the head of state in Hong Kong is known as the chief executive officer, much like how a corporation is a chief executive officer. Kind of telling you right there in the name that modern countries are none other than Roman like municipal corporations, essentially. But Carrie Lam, the current head of state in Hong Kong, is a devout Roman Catholic as well. And she, of course, went along, and she's, of course, like a big puppet of communist China. She gave no resistance to the new national security law that was just signed into law by her. She was parroting it. She's made some comical statements saying that people have nothing to fear. Like if you're absolutely compliant and if you're slavishly obedient to this national security law, there's nothing to worry about. But if you speak out, you can go to jail for 100 years for basically doing what we're doing right now. Like just criticizing the government, you can go to jail indefinitely because it's now like subversive. And the national security law applies to Hong Kong citizens like all over the world, not just within the geographic borders of Hong Kong. So it's one of the most like draconian laws that like I've ever seen. And like so you can see how like the Hong Kong democracy movement was essentially leading these people to the slaughter. Because you have the Catholic puppet Carrie Lam signing this national security bill, and you have all these Catholic provocateurs leading the Hong Kong democracy protest.
May I also add, there's a thread that I did on Roman Catholics in Hong Kong with at least 5 of them who served in the Hong Kong government. One of them is Anson Chan. She's the former Hong Kong colonial administrator. And another one is Donald Zhang, or Donald Sang. He was a former salesman for Pfizer, if you know who.
Didn't he run against Carrie Lam in the election?
No, he didn't run against Carrie Lam. He was the first Catholic administrator of Hong Kong, or first Catholic CEO of Hong Kong.
He was the previous CEO. Oh, okay. Yeah, because I've heard his name before, Donald Sang, and that's Tsang.
Yeah, correct. And then you got Audrey EU. She's the Hong Kong Civic Party founder. She's a Roman Catholic. And then you got Christine Low, who's the author of a book called The Hong Kong the Underground Front in Hong Kong, which is about the so-called Hong Kong Underground Communist Party running Hong Kong, but she does not mention the Roman Catholic Church being behind communism. And then you got Elsie Leung. She's a lawmaker within the Hong Kong Legislative Council. She's a Roman Catholic. And then you got Alan Leung, who worked in the Independent Police Complaints Department, which dealt with complaints against the Hong Kong police. He is also a member and chairperson of the Civic Party. And then you got Fred Lee, who is a member of the political party called the Hong Kong Democratic Party, founded by Martin Lee. And then Martin Lee himself was also a member of the Legislative Council in Hong Kong. And then you got Abraham Sheikh Lai Him, or Abraham Razak. He's actually from Jesuit-controlled Macau. He also served in the Hong Kong Legislative Council and is also a Roman Catholic.
Oh, fascinating. People aren't aware Macau is historically like a Portuguese province, and Portugal has been like a fiefdom of the Roman Catholic Church for centuries. And there's a statue of a Jesuit priest, Lorenzo Ricci, that was just built by the Chinese Communist Party in Macau. It was put up there in 2011, I believe.
There is also another thing I forgot to mention about the Chinese intelligence apparatus. From time to time, they do recruit Chinese people within the Chinese diaspora, just letting you know, to work as spies.
Well, absolutely. I think the puppet master, or the puppet master for the collaboration between like the Hong Kong police, the CIA, and the Chinese Communist Party is probably this Jesuit priest here, Father Stephen Chow, S.J. Here's a photo of him up on the screen. He's the believe he's the provincial for the Chinese province of the Society of Jesus, which incorporates Hong Kong. That tells you a lot about what you need to know, because Hong Kong is part of the China province of the Jesuits. Father Stephen Chow, and he's the current headmaster of one of the Jesuit schools there in Hong Kong that's fully subsidized by the government. But that being Hua Yan College, Hong Kong. And you see here, there's 2 Jesuit schools in Hong Kong. This was founded in 1919. So this is 8 years before their intelligence, the Chinese intelligence service is created in 1927. But there's also another Jesuit school in Hong Kong here called Hua Yan College, Kowloon. But and I recommend people look at the alumni list, right, even on the Wikipedia page, because like the Hong Kong, it's stacked. Here he mentioned Donald Tsang. Like Donald Tsang, Roman Catholic. He went to this Jesuit school here, Hua Yan College. He's Jesuit trained. You see here, he's the former chief executive of Hong Kong. The current Secretary of Transport and Housing in Hong Kong is Jesuit trained.
Oh,
Anthony Chung.
Oh, can I mention about Anthony Chung?
Anthony Chung. Okay, I'll pull up this picture here. Yeah, for sure.
He's closely tied with Martin Lee.
Oh, he's affiliated with Martin Lee?
Yeah, in the 1990s, before the Hong Kong Democratic Party was found, you had they were merged from 2 parties. One of them was called Meeting Point, and the other the United Democrats of Hong Kong.
Oh, interesting. Actually, right here, it says here, right here, under political activism. And so this was so he was chairman of the Meeting Point from 1989 to 1994, and then that merged with the United Democrats of Hong Kong, and he was chairman or vice chairman of the United Democrats of Hong Kong until 2004. Oh, very interesting. It's in and look, he's not the current. Wikipedia said he was the current Secretary of Transport. He left that office in 2017.
Yeah.
Is this Anthony Chung? Has he been like a big activist of the Hong Kong democracy movement? I assume if he's affiliated with Martin Lee.
In the early days, he was a member of the Hong Kong democracy movement.
Oh, he was, eh? Wow.
Yeah.
And then I want to stress, people really need to go through these alumni pages. You see here, like the former leader of the Liberal Party of Hong Kong was Jesuit trained Vincent Fang Kang. You see here, right on his Wikipedia, he moved to Hong Kong, born in Shanghai, China. Moved to Hong Kong and attended Hua Yan College, the eminent Jesuit all-boys secondary school in Hong Kong, graduating in 1962. And then he went to the United States, went to North Carolina State University after that. But this was the leader of the Hong Kong Liberal Party, and he was a member of the Legislative Council for 12 years, from 2004 to 2016. I recommend people really should go through this because they got to really, this is a huge list here. Like, just look at the politics section. Look at all these former, I don't know if you can see my screen, Alex. Like, look at all these government officials that went to this, just the one Jesuit high school in Hong Kong, not Hua Yan College, Kowloon, just Hua Yan College.
Do you mind to click on Charles Mok? Charles Mok is also a Hong Kong democracy movement member.
How do you spell his name?
Charles. Go up a bit. Hold on. Go back to the alumni.
Oh, is he on the alumni page?
Yeah, he was. Go up.
Oh, right here.
No, not that one. Not Chow. Go up. Not this one. Up. Go back up a bit. Go back up. Charles Mok. Do you see Charles?
Charles Mok. Oh, right here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so he's he's incumbent. He's a current member of the Legislative Council. Jesuit trained Charles Mok.
He's also a member of the Hong Kong democracy movement.
Ah, there you go.
Now, can I also...
Jesuit, that movement's completely Jesuit controlled. Wow. And you see how we should bring up some of the Georgetown connections to the Hong Kong democracy movement, because Hong Kong or the Communist Party was documented to be donating money to Georgetown. I'm going to see if I can pull up. I even found that article from a super establishment source like I think the magazine of like the Council on Foreign Affairs or Council on Foreign Relations. Yeah, right here. Chinese, and the article was titled, I think I have put the link here in the email.
I'll give
actually,
you
actually, let me just give me 1 second here. I'm going to screen share just so people can track this down. I don't have the link, but I sent this to the Cerruti team. But this is the headline here. Chinese government gave money to Jesuit Georgetown Chinese student group. So what a Hegelian dialectic. So while the Communist Chinese are giving money to Jesuit Georgetown, you have all these Jesuit Georgetown figures who are propping up as the leader of the Hong Kong democracy movement. And I think that type of infiltration is the reason why we see laws like the national security law get passed, with ultimately like no resistance from like the international community.
One of the Georgetown University members, who is also a member of the Hong Kong democracy movement, is Jeffrey No, or NGO. He is of Vietnamese descent.
Oh, just like the Roman Catholic Jesuit trained lawyer Viet Dinh,
yeah,
who drafted the Patriot Act. Oh, right here, Jeffrey Ngo. Yeah. He's got his own Georgetown faculty page.
That's him.
Doctoral student in philosophy. Yeah, he says here he specializes in global Asia and has broad interest in Chinese territorial and maritime frontiers.
I might bring up, he's also involved with another group in Washington, D.C. It's called the Hong Kong Democracy Council.
Hong Kong Democracy Council?
Yes.
Let me see if I can Hong Kong.
Hang on, I've got.
Oh yeah, he's got a page on their website here, Hong Kong Democracy Council.us.
No.
Oh yeah, oh wow, he's appeared in the Murdoch's Wall Street Journal. Of course, Rupert Murdoch, who owns the Wall Street Journal, is a papal knight of St. Gregory the Great. He's been in the Jesuit New York Times, which is currently run by Jesuit-trained Mark Thompson, who went to Stonyhurst. He's also written in the CIA's Washington Post, Catholics in Action's Washington Post. The Hong Kong Free Press, he's a regular writer in, and Dissent, which is probably like a Hong Kong magazine. But you can see that there's how does this college student get written in all of these or get placed in all these mainstream establishment magazines?
Now, can I go
connections? But.
I'm going to go into the founder of the Hong Kong Democracy Council, Samuel Chu. Guess who he is a speaker of?
Samuel Chu?
Yeah.
Is he a speaker at Georgetown?
Nope. He's a speaker of Planned Parenthood.
Planned Parenthood. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Was this I'm trying to find like an executive page.
Yeah, if you find Samuel M. Chu, that's him.
Oh, Samuel M. Chu down here.
Yeah, okay, this guy. Right. And I'm gonna go into.
Well, actually, it says here he's the younger son of the Rev. Is this a priest? The Rev.
Yeah.
His father was a Catholic priest.
I'm not sure. Chu Yeo Ming.
Or the Rev. Yeah, I'm gonna try to find out who this what denomination his father was, because his father was a reverend. Very interesting. Oh, a Baptist. Oh, a Baptist church in Hong Kong.
Can I also go into?
So this is probably a co-opted. I assume this is probably a co-opted ecumenical Baptist church operating in Hong Kong. Probably has some like CIA connections.
Do you mind to go into Operation Yellowbird? Because the 1989 Tiananmen Square protest. Click on the 1989 Tiananmen Square protest if you can. Yeah. That was also orchestrated by the Chinese intelligence apparatus at the time.
Oh, so they kind of brought out the protesters and ultimately so they could be crushed by the state.
Yeah. Do you mind to look for one of the student leaders, Chai Ling?
Chai Ling?
Yeah, Chailing. She was actually exposed as a agent.
This right here?
Yeah, she has been exposed by people on social media as an asset of the Chinese intelligence apparatus.
Really interesting. Wow.
Now, I'm going to speak about Operation Yellowbird, if you can find it.
Operation Yellowbird. Yeah, actually, that was on Chu Ming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy was. So he was the leader of Operation Yellowbird. Wow,
he was involved. Like, what I will say is that the Chinese intelligence apparatus were working with the CIA in sending Chinese intelligence apparatus agents to the West. If you find the belligerents, you'll find who was involved.
Taiwan, Canada, Australia, Western. Wow. You're saying so that this was a mission ultimately to sow infiltration of Chinese communism or Chinese communist philosophy into these Western countries here. This makes a lot of sense. Like in Canada, the current Jesuit-trained Prime Minister Justin Trudeau loves communist China. Let me see if I can find those comments. Justin Trudeau admires China dictatorship. Yeah, so here's right from CTV News. Trudeau under fire for expressing admiration for China's quote basic dictatorship. Kind of showing, Trudeau is educated by Jesuits, but it's kind of showing that, this, you can say this infiltration has taken place across the West, where now you have open leaders of Western nations are openly expressing admiration for China. Of course, let me see if I can find this article that I've reposted up on my Jesuit World Order blog. But the Vatican came out in 2018 and famously said that the Chinese model of society is the most ideal model of society. Let me just see. And I recommend people just type in China on my Jesuit World Order blog. A lot of your posts, Alex, will come up. Thanks for posting those. It's great research. People can get caught up on all of the work you've put out there. Here is this article here that I reposted from the Catholic Herald UK. But right here, China is the best implementer of Catholic social doctrine. This Vatican bishop. Pretty profound. I think very profound admission, to say the least.
Can I also add a Roman Catholic who was tied with Jimmy Lai? Are you familiar with the name William McGurn, who worked as George W. Bush's speechwriter?
Oh, absolutely. And just right before you get into William McGurn, I know that I have a really interesting quote from him. From a bombshell article that was put out by the Washington Post in 2008 called "The Catholic Wind in the White House." This article, people haven't read this article. It's on my website. Everyone should read this. This is explosive stuff. This shows that the Vatican is completely in control of the United States government. And this was about when George Bush was president. But William McGurn, right here. You see it on my screen here? It says here, former Bush speechwriter William McGurn. But it's just a quote that he said about George Bush, which is very insightful. And this applies to all U.S. presidents. William McGurn said, "I used to say that there are more Catholics on President Bush's speech writing team than on any Notre Dame starting lineup in the past half century." He's referring to the Catholic Notre Dame University's men's football team.
Now,
some people haven't checked out this article. But you're saying William McGurn, he has some connections to China as well?
Yeah, he's connected with Jimmy Lai. I've done a post on it. If you can find my post on the Jesuit World Order Reddit, I actually put it into points where Jimmy Lai. It's under the Jimmy Lai, the Jimmy Lai Apple Media
Oh, the Apple Media Connection, the night of Gregory. Oh, perfect. Okay, I'll pull this up here.
Yeah.
But this is William McGurn here on the screen.
Yeah.
So this is the guy, the quote I just read. This guy said there were more Catholics on George Bush's speechwriting team than on any Notre Dame starting lineup in the last 50 years.
It's known around the 1990s. William McGurn lived in Hong Kong.
Interesting.
And another one who's got ties with Hong Kong is Viet Dinh.
Yeah, right here, Viet Dinh, the top lawyer at News Corp.
Yes.
Jesuit professor at Georgetown University. Oh, and William McGurn, he's a member on the Council on Foreign Relations as well.
Yes.
William McGurn, he was a speechwriter for Murdoch too. Wow.
Yes.
And then, there's this guy. Wow, this guy's very connected. This guy's a spook. Washington bureau chief for Knight of Malta, William Buckley, National Review as well. William Buckley, Knight of Malta, and a Skull and Bonesman, who was also educated by the Jesuits at Stonyhurst. William Buckley was a big spook himself.
Now, Viet Dinh's sister, around the 1990s, went to Hong Kong, and she was held in one of those refugee camps built by the British to hold Vietnamese people, if you know what I'm saying. Yes, this is the article on Jimmy Lice's connections with William McGurn.
Is Mark Simon at all related to the Knight of Malta Treasury Secretary William Simon?
I'm not sure.
That'd be interesting if he was. Williams, the Treasury Secretary Simon, he's like worshipped by the Heritage Foundation, which is kind of, the Heritage Foundation is pushing this kind of propaganda narrative with the war with China. And the Heritage Foundation was, of course, founded by a Jesuit-trained Knight of Malta, Ed Follner, who's a big Trump advisor.
You know, William McGurn is much bigger than Mark Simon, to be honest, if you know what I'm saying.
These connections he put together with William McGurn shows that he's got some serious. This guy's a full-on Jesuit agent provocateur.
Another one.
I bet this guy's very close with Steve Bannon as well, Jesuit-educated Steve Bannon.
Another one in the Hong Kong democracy movement. She's pretty young. Agnes Chow was. Her whole family is Roman Catholic. Yeah.
You did an article on Agnes Chow?
Yeah. Yes.
And she was arrested under the new Hong Kong law, so she's ultimately probably I highly doubt it. She's got all these connections. She's probably just a face.
Yes.
Many normal people are being arrested by this new Hong Kong security law. It's destroying thousands of people's lives. But wow, so she attended Holy Family Canisian College, and she's one of the leaders of the Hong Kong democracy movement.
Yes.
You're saying how many generations did she come from, you say? Or what were you saying? What was her background?
Her background's Roman Catholic. She's also got a following in Japan as well.
Oh, interesting. Well, actually, here's another connection to the Baptist Hong Kong. She attended Hong Kong Baptist University also.
Correct. Yes.
Where is I think I have his page up here. But yeah, we found Chu Yingming, who is the father of one of the who is this guy's son? His son was one of the Hong Kong.
Yeah, Samuel Chu is his son.
Oh, okay, Samuel Chu.
Yeah.
Okay, and Samuel Chu is a Hong Kong democracy advocate
in Washington D.C.
agent who's Roman Catholic, and his father was a minister of this Baptist church, and his father had direct connections to his Baptist Reverend father had direct connections to this intelligence agency, Chinese intelligence operation Yellowbird. It's very interesting that the Baptist church is involved so much with this. It shows that the Jesuits are controlling it and using it as like an ecumenical vessel.
Correct.
And she's multilingual. She speaks Cantonese, English, and Japanese. So perfect intelligence agent. She has a YouTube channel too.
Yes, can I mention that Agnes Chow is very well known to the Japanese communists as well?
Oh, so they view her in high regard?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, very interesting. But Japan's another country that's completely controlled by the Vatican in almost every single facet.
Oh, can I mention about the Hong Kong Democracy Council? One of the individuals by the name of Brian Leung, I'm not sure if he's a spook, but during the Hong Kong protests last year, he was quite a coward, if you know what I'm saying. If you find Brian Leung's profile on the Hong Kong Democracy Council, he led protesters into the Hong Kong Legislative Council buildings.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize it looks like George actually jumped into the stream here.
Okay.
In the background to say, I think there's some noise going on in the back there, yeah, so I muted his mic.
Okay. Brian Leung led the protesters into the Hong Kong Legislative Council building, and when the police surrounded the building and were going to stop the protesters, Brian Leung was allowed to flee to the airport and headed back to the US.
Hello, Eric.
Oh, very interesting. That shows they're controlling both sides. Oh, hey, George, how's it going?
So it's about 9:30 p.m. About how long have you been on?
Okay, we've been going for about 52 minutes.
Okay, so
I'd probably just for me, I'd probably want to cap it around like an hour and a half or so. So we still got like another 40 minutes. If you want to bring up some subjects, we've been mainly going into China and Hong Kong. But nice to see you.
I forgot to mention about Samuel Chu. He's also involved with the LGBT movement in the US.
That's very interesting. Well, there's a long history with the Jesuits being involved with the LGBT movement. George found there was a Jesuit priest he was the founder of queer theology, Father John McNeil, S.J.
But Eric,
the Jesuits, actually, I have this on my website here. Actually, while I'm screen sharing it, you might find this comical, George. But Fordham University reprinted an essay called "The Gay Revolutionary" that was written by Michael Swift. Actually, if I type in Swift on my search bar, it'll come up. Okay, right here, Michael Swift, "The Gay Revolutionary." This was written in 1987. And this is literally like a war that's declared on straight people. People may have seen this. This is where the gays say here, "We shall sodomize your sons, emblems of feeble masculinity, or your shallow dreams and vulgar lies. We shall seduce them in your schools, in your dormitories, in your gymnasiums, in your locker rooms, in your sports arenas, in your seminaries," and it goes on and on and on. But like the Jesuit Fordham University is reposting this on their website. Which I just think is incredible. And people can see that right here. Like, I'm not making that up. You can see the Fordham University icon here on the left, which is, to me, is just, a powerful admission that, they're lock, stock, and barrel behind like the LGBT agenda.
Now, may I add, it's quite close to the Hong Kong protests. May I also Chinese intelligence apparatus actually to participate protests.
Well, it's just your mic was lagging a bit there.
Oh, okay. What I'll say is that it's quite close to the first anniversary of the Hong Kong protests, and there are actually accusations where people are saying that the Chinese intelligence apparatus and the CIA were working together in Hong Kong, disappearing protesters who took part.
Yeah, that's very interesting that those reports of disappearing, and you brought up how like you think they would taken them to the Laogai camps.
Yes, the Laogai camps, and so far the number is over 10,000 have been disappeared in Hong Kong last year as well.
That's very interesting. I'm trying to pull up the article. I know Johnny found an article where from a Jesuit source where Arturo Sosa visited Hong Kong. I think it was right at like the height of the riots last year. Yeah, here it is. I'm gonna screen share this. People should be able to find this if you type in the title of this article into your search bar. Where it says here, the tensions in Hong Kong, the Jesuits and their partners are also feeling them. Let's see if I can. Why isn't it coming up? Maybe did they delete this article? Let's try copying it into the search bar. But again, this is the Black Pope, the Superior General of the Jesuits, visiting Hong Kong during the height of the protests last year. Yeah, it looks like they might have deleted this article just because it's not coming up in the search bar when I'm typing it in. That was when I put Hong Kong and the Jesuits Global.
I think they tried to cover up evidence.
Well, actually, I think I might have found it here. Okay, this is it here.
Okay.
Okay, so this is they just kind of, I guess they made it so you have to find the actual article on the website. You can't just type in the article and it'll pop up. It'll just redirect you back to the homepage. This is right from the Jesuits Global website. Amidst social tensions in Hong Kong in July, this is written July 26, 2019, the Superior General of the Jesuits visited this Chinese territory, which is unique in many ways. There you go, right there. The Superior General of the Jesuits, Arturo Sosa, was right in the midst of the Hong Kong protest. And when you're saying, and as you're saying, like there were reports that there were thousands of the protesters who just went missing.
Correct.
We're speculating that they ended up in some Chinese like work camp.
Correct.
I think it's very plausible.
China's literally.
Well, actually, it looks like George is back in. George, do you got anything, George, on the Jesuit general going to Hong Kong, or do you got any input on like the Hong Kong situation? Brewing in China?
Actually, I don't, and I know this may sound completely tangential, but about 50 years ago, 1967, 68, there was something called the Hong Kong flu that kills something like 1 million people in the world. As I said, that may sound completely off topic, but it seems as if that roughly every 5 or 10 years, they like manufacturing these outbreaks. That generates fear, terror, things like that. And there was one that took place about a decade or so before that, 1957, 1958. You also had the swine flu outbreak, allegedly in the 1970s. So it was confined basically to the U.S. So something I posited on the show a month ago is, or maybe like 2 months ago, the Spanish flu of 1918, 1920 was a warm-up for now. And as I said, I'm not really addressing your question, Eric. However, as I said, you had the Hong Kong flu of the late 1960s. And remember, in the movie Contagion, it served as a blueprint for what's going on right now. The 2011 movie Contagion, it started in Hong Kong.
Well, very interesting. Yeah, that movie was totally Jesuit theater. Is Matt Damon Catholic? I know he was the star of that movie.
I've not
Lawrence
had any
Fishburne.
confirmation of it, but your fellow Canadian.
No, I'll have to look at who produced that movie, but that movie was total Jesuit theater. Like they predictably they put in the social distancing. Well, yeah, no, that's very interesting with Hong Kong. And actually, just while you're bringing that up, George, I confirmed this just on the alumni page of Jesuit Waiyan College, Hong Kong. It says one of the SARS heroes was educated by the Jesuits. And of course, COVID-19 is SARS-CoV-2, and like you said, every 5 years they engineer a new virus. Like they had patents for the original SARS virus, which they created. And then they created the Ebola virus. Ebola goes back to the 90s, but then they created like the MERS virus, Middle East Respiratory System. They created the Zika virus in a lab. It's just interesting to hear this woman here, Chung Shung Chi. She's the former dean and faculty of medicine at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. And Wikipedia says she's one of the SARS heroes. And then the chairman for the trust fund for SARS, which again is severe acute respiratory syndrome. It's a coronavirus. One of the chairmen for the trust fund for SARS, David Fang, was also Jesuit educated at Waiyan College, Hong Kong, and he's the medical superintendent at St. Paul's Hospital in Hong Kong, which looks like a Catholic hospital in Hong Kong. But to me, that's very interesting that you have these SARS connections right here to the the Jesuits in Hong Kong. And of course, I'm sure you've seen the article, you've seen the information, George, that Jesuit Tony Fauci was funding research out in China. They got the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Oh, can I also? Oh, this one.
But I just want to pull up this researcher's name here, or see if I can get a photo of her. To me, this is fascinating. That this woman's one of the quote heroes of the SARS pandemic. Dr. Let me see if this is her here. General surgeon. I'll have to track down this person's like full medical page. Because Wikipedia obviously isn't the most reliable of sources. But saying here one of the heroes of the SARS outbreak was educated by the Jesuits.
Oh,
very interesting. And she's based in Hong Kong. The Jesuit theater movie Contagion has the virus outbreaking in Hong Kong as well.
I would like to add, how China accuses the National Endowment of Democracy being involved in the Hong Kong protests. When I look into the biographies of members of the National Endowment for Democracy, it included Henry Kissinger and Zbigniew Brzezinski, apparently.
Oh, actually, yeah, and I think J. Peter Grace, who is the president of the Knights of Malta, and like at the head of the Grace Commission, and like a big Reagan economic advisor. A great point. A lot of people are not aware. Henry Kissinger was a professor at Jesuit Georgetown University. He became a professor there in 1977. And then Henry, people can see a photo on my website, I think, even of Kissinger meeting Kissinger's meeting Pope Paul VI with President Gerald Ford, who was, of course, a conspirator on the Warren Commission. You see U.S. President Gerald Ford and U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger with Pope Paul VI examining a silver eagle statue in the Vatican. I got to confirm this, but I heard an accusation that Henry Kissinger in his 2014 book World Order blames the Protestant Reformation for all of the world's problems. I have to find that exact quote, but apparently Kissinger is saying like the Protestant Reformation ruined the world order, which was at a harmonic state with the Holy Roman Empire controlling everything. That would make a lot of credence because this eagle here is a symbol of the Holy Roman Empire, and here's Kissinger at the Vatican with the Pope. And of course, I mentioned Kissinger became a professor at Jesuit Georgetown University. I have the Washington Post article here, June 3rd, 1977. You see here, Kissinger gets teaching post at Georgetown. Sorry, do you want to jump in, George? Well, it looks like George bounced out. Maybe give him another invite.
Oh,
he's been kind of connecting in and out. It's just kind of I've been keeping my screen share on. I haven't been able to see him all the times when he gets booted. But I'm going to give him another invite here.
Can I also add this another Catholic that I found out that is in the National Endowment for Democracy? His name is George P. Weigel.
George P. Weigel?
Yeah. He goes. Yeah, George P. Weigel. He's in the National Endowment for Democracy. Now, George P. Weigel received a BA from St. Mary's Seminary, apparently.
Well, actually, let me pull up my screen share here. He's like the chairman of the Distinguished Fellow and William E. Simon Chair in Catholic Studies. And again, William E. Simon was a Knight of Malta who was the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury in the 1970s.
And then you got another one by the name of Barry Jackson, who was on John Bonner's chief of staff.
Interesting. Well, this Larry Weigel, he was educated at St. Michael's College in Toronto. That's where the Jesuit fascist priest Charles Coughlin went. Oh, interesting. And just of course, the name you brought up earlier is the Benny Brzezinski.
Yes.
It's a devout Catholic.
Yes.
Jesuit trained.
Hello, Eric.
Oh, hey, George. How's it going? Your audio sounds good.
So, I had some technical issues a moment ago, but if I could just pull up a name, we're talking about the movie Contagion, and it turns out the editor of that film was Steve Maroney, and he went to Bellarmine Preparatory School in San Jose, California. So you're talking about Jesuitical theater.
Steve, how do you spell that last name? Maroney?
Yes, M-I-R-R-I-O-N-E, Maroney. So he he had worked So Steve Maroney had done or had worked with Stephen Sondheim on several films like Ocean's 11, some movies with Julia Roberts. So as I said, he was the editor for the film. Now that may not seem like a prestigious position, like being a director, or producer, or even writer, but hey, he has to put the package together. That's his job. So
here he is. It's right on Wikipedia. Contagion. No. This makes a lot of sense, George. Just because I don't know, like I'll have to rewatch the movie. Like, but when I saw it years ago, like they even put like the social distancing predictive programming into the movie.
Oh, yes, of course.
Everything that we're seeing kind of now played out was, predicted in the Contagion movie. And like, the hunt for the vaccine or the crusade for the vaccine, maybe that's a better term.
Well, okay. This is a hypothesis I've run by Johnny and others, is I think they've probably had the vaccine for at least years, if not decades. And why? Do I have any proof? No. But why do I postulate that? Well, according to everything I read, it takes an average of 20 years to develop a vaccine. And the quickest they've ever developed one hitherto is 7 years. So Trump and his team is talking about a year and a half. That was actually as of March. So as I said, they probably have one that lying around. And of course, they're holding off on rolling that out for a number of reasons. They want people to be wearing these muzzles, aka masks, as long as possible. Two, they want to get more people sick for next year, so that's why they're putting a heavy push on flu vaccines. Now, this is, I'm not sure if you listened to our recent shows, but in August, or actually July, the chairwoman of the University of California, Janet Napolitano, and yes, I know you've talked about her before, said that by November the 1st, all students and staff of the University of California must get a flu vaccine with limited medical or religious exemptions. And when I say limited, you had to submit documentation to that effect. And each case will be adjudicated by some sort of bureaucrat.
Well, absolutely. We should know that's big news, and again, that was Jesuit-trained Janet Napolitano, former Secretary of Homeland Security, former Governor of Arizona, who even just a couple years ago admitted that there was $175 million that just went missing from the University of California funds. Literally, just people can find that story. $175 million just went missing. But again, she went to Jesuit Santa Clara, and she's the one that put out these like draconian orders that all students have to receive the flu vaccine before returning to school.
And it's not the students, the staff, and that's professors, instructors, groundskeepers,
staff as well. Yeah, anyone that I assume comes onto the property.
Yes, and of course, and so this is just my opinion. She could be pulling another Khmer Rouge. Now, I've talked about them before. They're the thugs that took over Cambodia in the 1970s. By the way, they're installed by the CIA. They're installed and maintained by the CIA. And the leader, Pol Pot, was trained by the Catholics at in Phnom Penh. And he actually was further trained by the Jesuits in France. So the Khmer Rouge, one of the first things they did is they got rid of the intelligentsia. Now, I know this may sound comical, but if you were literate, that was a huge liability. So your neighbors were encouraged to rat on you and said, hey, he knows how to read. Said, no, I don't. Oh, yeah, that's not true because I've been in your house before and I've seen books on the shelf. Oh, those are just paperweights. So anybody who had the accoutrements of Western civilization, those who spoke a foreign language, especially English or French, because the French have been the colonial powers for like 100 years or whatever. Those who knew how to obviously read or write, those who wore a watch, wore glasses, things like that. So they got rid of the teachers, professors, lawyers, accountants, doctors, engineers, basically anybody who could run their society. So, and I said this to you before, the Khmer Rouge came to power in 1975. So that was declared year zero. Therefore, nothing existed prior to then.
Well, therefore, and George, just correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the regime use like the U.S. bombings that was led by Jesuit-trained Knight of Malta Alexander Haig as like kind of like a rallying cry to rally the masses behind the Khmer Rouge against like the foreign like Yankee imperialism?
Yes, and of course, speaking of the year zero, the Khmer Rouge said that nothing existed prior to then. Therefore, they had to eliminate any sort of evidence, buildings, books, people, and therefore they wanted to basically bring Cambodia, or Kampuchea as they called it briefly, back to the Dark Ages. And now I realize people might say, oh, gee, that was unfortunate. So Cambodia had a population in 1975 of 7 or 8 million people, and it's hard to reckon the precise number, but at least 1 million of them, perhaps as many as 3 million of that 8 million, were killed by 1979. Now, granted, not all of them were shot. Many of them starved, died of exposure, malnutrition, things like that. But relatively speaking, that was, and I say relatively speaking, that was comparable to anything that Stalin or Mao did.
Well, it's very, very Jesuitical. You know, when we know the history, we covered it lots here. The Jesuits created Marxist Leninism or Marxist communism in its modern form. Mm-hmm. Going back to the reductions of Paraguay, even Marx himself being tutored by Jesuit priests like for 5 years. And actually, course, I'm going to see if I can pull it up. I believe it's even, it's on his Wikipedia page. Pol Pot attended Roman Catholic primary school, L'École Miche. Most of his classmates were children of French bureaucrats and Catholic Vietnamese. Right there, it's disgusting. But how many mass murderers has the church got behind, or mass murdering movements? Especially with Marxist Leninism. It's another Robert Mugabe was another Jesuit educated or Roman Catholic educated brutal Marxist Leninist dictator of the 20th century. Not nearly as many deaths under his watch as Pol Pot, but Robert Mugabe was a brutal dictator of Zimbabwe, ruled for like 39 years, almost 40 years. Murdered, like hundreds of thousands of people were murdered, for criticizing him.
Someone.
What were you saying?
There's someone I would like to add. Are you familiar with the brutal Suharto regime in Indonesia? I made a post about a Jesuit.
Oh, was that the regime that the CIA put in the 60s?
Yeah, there's a Jesuit priest involved by the name of Joop Beek. He's a Dutch Jesuit.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah, that's something we should go into.
If you can find my post on Jesuit World Order called Joop Beek, I've actually did make a post on him.
I'll pull that up. I just want to show you, from a Washington Post article, how the U.S. was using the strategy of tension to bring the Khmer Rouge to power. They bombed Cambodia. You see here, it was on the Alexander Haig, the Jesuit-educated Knight of Malta Secretary of State, had a big part in that decision. But the bombing of Cambodia made the climate much riper for Pol Pot to come into power. People can see that there. You did an article here on Indonesia.
Yeah, I did.
Was it Jesuit priest Joseph Beek?
Yeah, this guy. This guy, please. He's the man who was involved with Suharto. He had ties with the CIA, MI5, MI6, and the Australian intelligence.
There was a movie. There was a film that was made about him.
There was.
Oh, I'm gonna have to. Was this done in English?
I'm not sure.
So I'll have to get a copy of that film. That's very interesting. Yeah, it says right here in the synopsis. The film is called Imato Ignacio. Ignacio. So this is probably a pro-Catholic Church film. But it's Imato Ignacio.
Hello, Eric. Hello, Alex.
Yep, I'm here. Are you there, Eric?
Yes. Now, by the way, it's just about 10 p.m. my time. What time is it where you are?
Nearly 5 p.m. in New Zealand.
Oh, okay. So it's 5 p.m. Friday.
Yes, correct. We are a day ahead of the US and Canada.
Yes. Oh, wow. So you're about 17 hours ahead of us. So so it's hard for me to fathom that, because I'm used to there being a 3-hour difference between Eric and me, because he's in the Eastern time zone and I'm in the Pacific. Alex, I was just curious, have you ever been to the U.S. or to North America?
I have never been to the US before.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope you can make it, one of these days, because while it's still, but I would not recommend you come to California anytime soon because the air quality is awful.
Is it due to the fires due to the fires that's going on at the moment?
Well, yes, it's due to the direct energy weapons and to the Kim fog.
Oh, oh dear.
And that's no joke.
Oh dear. I think Eric's PC must have run out of battery or something.
Oh, well, I hope he can rejoin us.
Yes.
So I understand. I've been following the situation in New Zealand. It's been a while since I've checked it, but you have allegedly had just over 20 people die of this, like 20, 25 people. So it's virtually a non-existent number. But despite that, the lockdowns are very draconian there.
Not just draconian. For example, a few months ago, I brought some model trains from Germany. They can't come to New Zealand at the moment.
Oh, well, I understand that in certain part, okay, maybe I have you confused with Australia, but in Victoria, Australia, you cannot travel more than 5 kilometers from your house without authorization or valid reasons, such as work, you have to go to the doctors, or something like that.
In New Zealand, if we want to travel out or to Australia or international, when we come back, we've got to go into isolation for 2 weeks. We get charged $3,000 each, which is actually highway robbery if you ask people.
Well, yes, it is. Now, of course, here in the United States, we like to tout our Constitution and our Bill of Rights, but it's quickly becoming the Bill of Privileges.
Yes, I think. Oh, Eric's back now, I think.
I hope so.
Oh yeah, I lagged out there. Just I kind of like reboot my computer.
Okay.
No, yes. I think you're spot on there though, George. It's kind of just pathetic. However, just we're seeing it roll out. Like the sheep are kind of getting excited. Oh, like the hair salons are back open. Oh, the restaurants are back open. So we're kind of just minusculely getting our like rat in our cage. Well, I guess hamster in a cage privileges back. We're getting those back incrementally, and like we're making it seem like that's exciting and thrilling, which is kind of pathetic.
Okay, could I just mention something? I realize this may sound Americentric and California-centric, but more and more places are opening up, sort of, that haven't been put out of business, such as barbershops, nail salons, as you just said. They're not allowing indoor dining. You can get takeaway or home delivery, and of course you cannot have indoor worship services. Now, Johnny would say that's probably not a bad thing, but that notwithstanding, so technically speaking, if you're part of a synagogue or church or anything like that, you cannot go inside. You can do it outside the park or the parking lot or car park or whatever it is you call it. But you cannot go inside. And there have been a number of congregations in California that have decided to defy this order. As a matter of fact, there's a church a couple hours south of me that had been having indoor services for something like a week or so. And the local, this was in Santa Clara County, surprise, surprise. And the church in question was hit with something like $100,000 US fine. Not sure what that is in Canadian or New Zealand dollars, but needless to say, that's a great deal of money. So the church was forced to close down. And of course, even if you look at the county in question, Santa Clara, which has a population of about 2 million people, something like less than 300 people have died over with this corona hoax. So yes, it's unfortunate for those 280 some odd people. But statistically and in terms of raw numbers, you're talking virtually nobody in that county has died. Same thing in the county where I live. Something like 114 people out of 500,000 in 6 months have allegedly died with the covert 1984 boogeyman bug. And even despite this, the county is still mandating these muzzles, and people stay 6 feet apart or 1.8 meters, or whatever that is. You have limitations as to indoor dining, and one of the problems in the Western United States in general, in California in particular, is last month the air outside has been toxic, and these are not due to wildfires; these are directed energy weapons. And I know people might think I'm a kook for saying that, but a few weeks ago in California, something like there were close to 400 fires going on at the same time, which burnt something like 1 million acres. I guess it's about 400,000 hectares. So these are not natural. These are war crimes. They're pulling a Dresden on us.
Oh, I agree with that take that they're direct energy weapons. I think the proof that they're direct energy weapons is like how you're seeing some of these forest fires being selective. I know that's a phenomenon where some houses are completely burnt to the ground, and then you'll see you have 2 or 3 houses are standing, and then 3 or more flattened. And even with the not even direct energy weapons, like it could be like arsonists as well. Like I know they even they arrested someone in Washington State connected to or Oregon, and interestingly, the guy was connected to Antifa, if I'm not mistaken. But they arrested this guy on suspicions of that he started one of the wildfires in Oregon. And I know last year in Australia, again, this is what the Jesuit lamestream media reported, but they said that the Australian authorities arrested like 16 men for arson charges during kind of the height of the big Australian wildfires last year.
Some of these things, yes, you do get wildfires, and yes, you do get arsonists, but not hundreds at a time. Do you know how much coordination that would require? Do you know how good their communications would have to be?
Yes,
you will have lightning strikes.
George, that's a fantastic point. So the only way that could be the case if it were like a Jesuit, well-organized machine like Antifa or Black Lives Matter, or like the CIA coordinating like organized arsonists. Like they have to be teams of organized arsonists scattered throughout. It couldn't just be like individual, like high school age kids who are like kind of rebelling out who are doing this. I think that could be some of it. That's why I'm kind of intrigued just to see where this case goes in Oregon, because this guy was supposedly connected to Antifa, which is definitely a Jesuit intelligence organization. At least at like the highest levels of leadership.
Yes, I might also add that Jesuit priest Jude Beek, he was seriously involved with Suharto. And
Eric.
That's admitted right on his wiki page, which I got up here. And Suharto was a brutal dictator of Indonesia. He reigned for almost 31 years. The Jesuit priest was his. The Jesuit priest was his speechwriter. That's admitted right here. They compare him to Rasputin. Jesuit priest Joseph Beek. Right here, he was a speechwriter for Suharto, and the Jesuit priest helped shape the tyrannical Indonesian secret service, the OPSUS, OPSUS. That's a fantastic find. Have you heard of this Jesuit before, George?
You said it was
I got a photo of him.
Beak?
Yeah, I got a photo of him here. Yeah, Yop Beek. They're saying this guy was General Suharto's Rasputin in Indonesia, and this guy was an openly ordained Jesuit priest, which is very interesting. And I'm sure you've heard.
I never.
Oh, sorry. What were you saying, George?
Okay, I've not heard of him. So they love using them Jesuits for speech writers.
I was saying, who was I'm saying Obama's speechwriter was Jesuit trained with John Favreau. He was the valedictorian at Holy Cross. If I'm remembering properly, John Favreau, Favearu, John Favreau. And we brought up one of Bush's speechwriters earlier on the show. William McGurn was a devout Roman Catholic, went to Notre Dame's, got some big connections to Hong Kong. And William McGurn said there's more Catholics on George Bush's speechwriting team than on any starting lineup on any Notre Dame football team in the last 50 years. So I think that says a lot about the influence of Catholic speechwriters. Well, you know, what's the Donald Trump? His press secretary is currently Jesuit trained. The young blondie, Kayleigh McKebley. She looks like she's only like 25 years old.
Yes, of course.
She's around my age, but she went to Jesuit Georgetown.
And of course, you know, we're talking about California. Eric, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you good, George.
Okay, we're talking about California, and the organization that's responsible for fighting wildfires or forest fires is called CAL FIRE. It's California Department of Firefighting. If you go under their their staff list, the deputy director of CAL FIRE is Anthony Favreau, and he got his undergrad degree from University of Santa Clara. Also, the other deputy director is Tobias Halverson. He is the chief legal counsel for CAL FIRE, and he went to Catholic University of America.
Wow. Oh, that's and these. So are those the two highest positions?
Well, actually, there are several deputy directors. Another fellow
these are deputy directors. No, that's key though. You know, that's wow. Well, what was the name of the first Favreau?
Anthony Favreau.
Favreau.
The other one was Tobias Halverson. Number 3 is Scott Gregory. He got his master's degree from Regis University in Denver, Colorado. And he's basically, prior to working for CAL FIRE, he was in the California Army Corps of Engineers.
People at Regis University is Jesuit.
Yes. So you have 3 of the leaders of CAL FIRE have Catholic education, 2 of them by the Jesuits. So we're talking about direct energy weapons. They'd be familiar with that. They know how these things work. As I said, Scott Gregory, as I said, he prior to joining CAL FIRE, he was in the Army National Guard, and he worked for the Army Corps of Engineers. So he knows the landscape, the topography of the entire state. He knows where the dams, the bridges, the roads are, the frontage roads, the fire roads, all that sort of stuff.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, you'd know you'd know all the ins and outs of the infrastructure.
Yes. So he knows where the cleared land is, or where the brush is, where the forests are, things like that. So he knows the proximity to water, things like that. In the last few years, these fires that have hit, other places, Australia, but here in California, they do things that defy physics. And, they will jump over highways, jumped over dams, do things that would be physically, you were talking about this a few minutes ago. So these are not organic. These are not natural.
Well, it's a documented fact that the U.S. government took Nikola Tesla's research and they weaponized it. There's actually Donald Trump's uncle who was involved with seizing the Tesla research. I think Fred Trump.
Oh, okay. Then he also had his father's name Fred.
I'm sorry. I think John Trump. Yeah, sorry. Fred's his father. John was the uncle. That.
Mm-hmm.
Or let me confirm. I'll get the first name. I'm sure. Have you heard of that Trump Tesla?
Actually,
I think it was. Oh yeah, John G. Trump. Yeah, it was John G. Trump. He was professor at MIT for like 50 years. He was the paternal uncle of current Jesuit trained Donald Trump, who went to Fordham. Yeah, it was John G. Trump who seized Tesla research, and he gave it to the property of the alien, or they gave it to the office of the alien property custodian. And then, of course, in the FBI files that were recently declassified showed that Tesla was working on like a quote death ray weapon. This is like over like 100 years ago now. But what we're seeing, a type of death ray like frequency weapon would be like the perfect type of device to create the current wildfires that we're seeing right now. Or just some of like the laser weapons that Raytheon has.
There's a movie that came out. There's a movie that came out 1950 called "The Day the Earth Stood Still," and I've seen it before. Yes. Well, one of the robots, like alien robots, actually, by lowering its shields, it can make things disappear. Tanks, jeeps, people. So I think that wasn't a case of maybe predictive programming, but there was a case of them, tipping their hand. And something I wanted to mention, and I'll probably bring this up on Johnny's show tomorrow, is there was a band, an American pop band, it was popular in the 1970s and 80s called Blue Oyster Cult. Are you familiar with them, Eric or Alex?
I've never heard of Blue Oyster before.
How about you, Eric?
I'm not very familiar with them. No. Blue Oyster Cult.
Okay, well, they're noted for a number of novelties. Okay, they're noted for a number of novelty songs. One was called Godzilla. Another one was called "Don't Fear the Reaper," and the third one was "I'm burning for you." And there's it came out in the early 1980s, like 82, 83, and there's a line in the song where it says, "I'm burning for you," and where it says, "I believe in paying the devil his due." And I remember hearing that decades ago, and it didn't dawn on me. So what that means literally is, I believe in paying the devil. A due is a payment or a fee or something like that. So if you spell it D-U-E, but whoever the singer, is he talking about D-U-E is like a payment, or is he talking about capital D, capital E, capital W? Because as I said, the title of the song is "Burning for You."
Oh, is it DW, Direct Energy Weapon? You're saying it's like an acronym? Oh, yes. That's interesting. It could be. I'm familiar with that. I've heard that song lots now that you sung the chorus. I've heard that song. No, that's interesting though. I wouldn't put it past them just because they have shown that they do a lot of predictive programming and music and TV shows in the past.
Well, this is something Nick and I talked about months ago when there was a police song around the same time, early 1980s, called "Don't Stand So Close to Me."
What was the title of that?
Don't stand so close to me.
Don't say. There you go, social distancing.
Yes.
No,
Now, funny
no,
you should
that's
say that,
interesting.
Eric,
Yeah.
because
Well, no, that's a lot of the. Well, that's something I noticed too. A lot of the songs, even just some of like the hip hop songs I've listened to, like the lyrics become more relevant as time goes on.
So as part of the conditioning,
Because
they
a lot
want
of
you
it,
to
because a lot
accept
of it is
behavior you
ultimately
otherwise would not.
foreshadowing or predictive programming. Oh, sorry, what are you saying?
Oh, okay, and of course, they want to condition people to accept behavior that they otherwise would not. This is something we talked about March, April, back when this whole nonsense hit. Why have zombie movies, cannibalistic ghouls, Night of the Living Dead or The Walking Dead, things like that, Resident Evil? Why have these comic books, these video games, have been so popular for decades, going back to at least the 1960s? Because it's part of the psychological warfare. We need to fear some sort of pathogen that, depending upon the format, will turn people into these ghouls. So, and you don't want to catch this sickness.
Well, they use that same rhetoric for like terrorists. All like the war video games that come out recently that prop up like the CIA and the Jesuits' war on terror in the Middle East. They propped up games like with the Soviet threat back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. That was propped up through comic books and games. And even modern day, like the Russians are routinely depicted as like the big bad evil guys in Western first person shooter games. And China has been built by. There was actually, I remember I played a video game called I think it was called Homefront, where it was about like it was obviously like a kind of an allegory for modern day China, but it was like North Korea takes over South Korea, and then they take over Japan, and then they take over the Philippines, then they take over Taiwan, then they take over China, and then North Korea turns into like a mega Asian super communist state. And then in the game Homefront, North Korea invades the United States, which is very interesting, just because it kind of predictive programming for a war between the U.S. or foreshadowing the U.S. getting involved in a war in Asia, which will inevitably involve China with the way things are going.
Well, it's funny. There have been two versions of Red Dawn. One that came out in the 1980s, which is a bit of a cult classic starring Charlie Sheen. Yes, son of Martin Sheen. Yes, that Charlie Sheen. And of course, Martin Ramon Estevez is Opus Dei, was trained by the Jesuits at Xavier. Charlie, is a big sexual deviant. He likes, basically, he'll sleep with anything with two legs. But basically, yes, that film. And it also starred Roman Catholic Patrick Swayze. So in the 1980s film, I believe it came out in 1884, interestingly enough, the Russians invaded America. And so you have a group of these ragtag teenagers who, wiped out the Russians. Well, they did 4 or 5 years ago, they did a reboot, but it wasn't Russia, it was North Korea that invaded America.
It's the same. It's the same tactic. They're constantly having to drive up like an ideological threat, like an existential threat to the national security apparatus. That's why all the people, it's kind of tough just because it's so popular. And like the video I did on Tom Clancy and Jack Ryan, that's a powerful example of how video games today are just complete CIA Jesuit propaganda.
And of course,
I play video games sometimes. It's important to have like an escape, but people got to realize like people are spending so much time on these games, and these games, like with how detailed they are, like I'm sure people are getting their worldview formed by it.
And of course, people are spending more and more time at home, especially over the last 6 months or so, because, because what else are people going to do? And
Absolutely.
we've
That's why
talked about this before.
the next generation with the Xbox 5 and the PS5 and the new Xbox are set to be coming out in a few weeks. Perfect timing with everyone, sitting at home. And I would say that's the way the Jesuits want us. They would rather people just at home playing video games and watching mindless Jesuit theater TV than, informing themselves on how we're all going to get out of the mess that they've created for us. We've kind of created it for ourselves by, I'm saying, and we're not guiltless. Like we as, I'd say, like I don't want to identify us as the masses, but the masses as a whole have been so passive, that we've allowed, the Jesuits and the military-industrial complex to create this kind of nightmare situation for us. We have all these laws on the book, all these new restrictions that are coming into play, all these new mandates.
Oh, there's something I would like to say about a video game that I play.
And of course, things are different here in America. I realize, Alex.
Oh, there's a video game that I usually play. I'm not sure.
Hello.
Eric. Oh, hello. Oh, there's a video game that
Hello,
I play.
Alex?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear each other? I got both of you chatting there. Okay. That you're bringing up the video game, Alex. And just a heads up, we've been going for an hour and 46. I'll probably cut off the stream at the 2-hour mark. So you guys got about 15 more minutes left. Just if you guys want to start making concluding points.
I'll go for probably another 9 or 10 minutes because I need to start the fire up because it's winter in New Zealand at the moment. There's two things I like to bring up. There's a video game that I play. It's called World of Warships. When it comes to the German warships, they don't use the swastika, but instead they use the Iron Cross for the flag, apparently. And it's so blatant on the ships. On one of the battleships called the Bismarck, they have Iron Cross painted on both sides.
Oh wow, Iron Cross on the Bismarck.
Yes. And
no, they're pretty. It's kind of amazing, just that, especially with the Tom Clancy series epitomizes that. But it's just I'm mind blown at how much truth they put in those games. Like in the one game there's a DEA agent, Agent Sandoval, I think was his name, in Ghost Recon Wildlands. He's a DEA agent who does a false flag coup. The U.S. bombs their own embassy and blames it on the cartels to justify an invasion into Libya or into Bolivia. But like detail like that in games is shows that it's all Jesuit theater.
Now, I'm not sure if another Jesuit style is in action. The other day, I was looking at the Jesuit-controlled NASA YouTube channel, and I think they're having a public fright section or session, if you know what I'm saying. The Jesuit-controlled NASA is claiming, another little ice age is on the way, and people are already getting frightened, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, it's interesting, yeah. Well, that's another way they can use fear or use science to put people into fear people about an ice age or an incoming meteor strike. Well, that's interesting. I wasn't aware NASA was promoting that. Looks like George dropped out. Yeah, just if you want to start wrapping up here, it's just getting late for me. I'm probably going to hit the sack shortly, to be honest. But do you have anything you want to close up with before we sign off?
In my closing points, I hope people had the opportunity to learn about the Chinese intelligence apparatus, which was created by Zhou Enlai and Kang Xing, who were tigers for were in Jesuit-controlled Mao Zedong's inner circle, and I hope that they enjoyed learning how the Jesuit-controlled Chinese intelligence apparatus also runs the Hong Kong democracy movement, and activists and leaders like Martin Lee, Jimmy Lai, Agnes Chow, Jeffrey Ng, and Simon Chu, and the Hong Kong Democracy Council have been exposed as controlled opposition in the Hong Kong democracy movement. And I hope people had learned that the Suharto regime was actually controlled or had high-level involvement from a Jesuit priest. And I think those are my concluding points.
Oh, that's fantastic research, Alex. And thanks for. I'm glad we were able to put all this information out there tonight. I think we proved it pretty conclusively that the Roman Catholic Church is in complete control of the Hong Kong democracy movement. The Hong Kong in general, they're in control of China, Chinese intelligence, American intelligence, working together to achieve a synthesis, kind of creating a new Cold War paradigm. Fantastic research. And thanks for bringing up that Jesuit connection to Suharto. That's huge. Jesuit Jupe Beek, the Suharto's Rasputin. He's been referred to as the Rasputin of Suharto, a Jesuit priest. And this Jesuit priest helped form the fascist secret police in Indonesia as well. That's just a great find. More proof of their criminality in world affairs that needs to become more well known to the public before, and that's how real change is going to occur, by identifying who is like the real menace, to society. If you look at the coronavirus, all these virologists connect back to the Jesuits. Fauci, Redfield, Dr. Robert Gallo. They're the real enemy that needs to be identified. But yeah, George, do you have anything you want to sum up with before we sign off here?
Okay, so as I've established before in previous broadcasts, I live in Sonoma County, which is in California. California has 58 counties. Sonoma County has about 500,000 people, and forgive me for boring you with all these extraneous details. This is something most people outside the United States don't know, and most people inside the United States don't know. You have a few corruptocrats that run your counties. Now, you have your public health officer, your public health director, your chief legal counsel for the county, and your deputy chief counsel for the county. Most people might know about the district attorney. These are the key players where I live. The district attorney in Sonoma County is Jill Ravish. She got her law degree from the University of San Francisco. The chief public defender is Kathleen Posey. She got her undergrad degree from the University of San Francisco. The chief legal counsel for Sonoma County is Robert Pittman. He got his law degree from Loyola Marymount, Los Angeles. The assistant legal counsel for Sonoma County is Cheryl Bratton. She got her law degree from University of San Francisco. The public health director for Sonoma County is Barbie Robinson. She got her master's degree from Georgetown University. The public health officer is Sundari Mace. She used to be on the board of directors for the CDC, which we established in previous broadcasts, was founded by a lay Jesuit, Joe Mountain, in 1946. Mountain got his undergrad medical degree from Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The current head and aforementioned Bob Redfield got his undergrad medical degree from Georgetown University. So almost all of these key players in my county.
Yeah, that's wow. Again, the people. Every single school you mentioned there was a Jesuit school, so that's profound control.
Okay,
and that proves that I'm just to say that proves that you're not really identifying what the problem is without going to the Jesuit level. Versus, as you show in Sonoma County, that's a literal monopoly on that. all the names you listed shows that that's a direct monopoly on every aspect of the government.
So now the chief legal counsel tells the board of supervisors what to do. So just to let you know what his position is. The chief of police for Santa Rosa, which is the largest town and the seat, which is like the capital, not quite, but his name is Rainer Navarro. He got his master's degree from University of San Diego, which is a Catholic school. The mayor of Santa Rosa is Tom Spenheim. He got his undergrad degree from St. Mary's College in La Moraga, California, which is Catholic. The chief of police for Petaluma, which is the second largest town in the county, is Steve Savino. He got his undergrad degree from La Moraga, or St. Mary's College in La Moraga, California. Almost all the major gatekeepers are Catholic trained or Jesuitically trained. I mean, it's almost comical how much control they have in my county.
It is comical. Holy cow, with all the names you brought up. I'm gonna have to replay that a couple times just to document all those names again. Holy cow. No, that is comical. Well, George, would think back, like the Jesuits established California as like their own province back in the 1600s. And I'm sure people are aware that like almost all the cities in California have like Catholic sounding names. Like San Diego, San Jose, like Los Angeles. Sacramento, literally the Catholic sacrament. Los Angeles is it's named after the Virgin Mary, who's of course worshipped in the Roman Catholic Church. I think it means the city of the Queen of our Angels, which is of course a reference to Mary.
Well, I mean, you have St. Rose, Santa Rosa, which I just referenced, St. Francis, San Francisco, St. Joseph, San Jose.
But actually, in San Francisco, was it St. Francis of Assisi is the patron saint of San Francisco?
Well, that's a matter of debate. Now, according to our girl Nancy Pelosi, it is, but others would argue it's actually Francis Xavier.
Well, actually, Francis Xavier, he's the Jesuit. I would say Francis Xavier.
Well, speaking of Nancy Pelosi, a few weeks ago, she went to a hair salon in San Francisco, even though she wasn't supposed to. They were supposed to be closed. So did you catch that flap?
Oh, yeah, I caught that, yeah. Actually, just very interestingly, just a couple of days ago, a guy, I think, pooped on her one of her driveways, like I think her 15th house or something like that in San Francisco. But some guy actually pooped on Nancy Pelosi's driveway. I thought it was kind of comical. But I guess she's angering a lot of citizens out there. and she was on the video where she was opening up her fridges, and she had these were like $30,000. It was like a $30,000 fridge or something, like a huge fridge, like probably the biggest fridge I've ever seen in my life. And she's opening it up, and it's just filled with food. She's like, "Oh, I love ice cream so much," and this is at the time when thousands of Americans are struggling to make ends meet and like are struggling to afford to buy food to put on the table. And she's showing off like how rich she is. And she did this like she was on like some comedian show when she did this. But it's amazing kind of how out of touch. That's the word. She's very out of touch with the average American, and the haircut incident is just another example of that.
And of course, in about
he's a hypocrite. And I'm just say, George, it's really important people know this. Like, Jesuitism is literally defined as like hypocrisy in Webster 1828 dictionary. Like, it's literally dictionary defined as hypocrisy and being deceptive. Jesuitism, and just think of Pelosi, the incredible hypocrisy of Pelosi getting the haircut while telling everyone else you're not allowed to get a haircut. You have to self-isolate, stay inside. She's calling you like a murderer by proxy if you want to go out and walk around, because she's saying you're going to spread the coronavirus to people and thereby kill them. That's hypocrisy, and that's literally definition, dictionary definition of Jesuitism. Pelosi is a Jesuitess, so it makes perfect sense when you know the Jesuit angle.
Well, it's interesting. And after all, her nephew, Gavin Newsom, is our governor. And, speaking of Jesuitical theater, and it's really hard, it's very disconcerting trying to talk politics to people because in about 6 weeks in early November, we're going to be having our presidential selection. So you basically have a choice between one papal pedophile versus another papal pedophile.
Oh, absolutely. The classic, the choice of the lesser of two evils, literally epitomized in this election. And just, I know Alex has done a lot of work on this, but Nancy Pelosi, the Jesuitess Pelosi, is very close, just with many of the Hong Kong democracy leaders that we've covered on this stream tonight.
Well, I didn't know, and so is Dianne Feinstein, who is the senior senator from California. So you have Dianne Feinstein, who went to a Catholic school, a convent school, Sacred Heart Convent School in San Francisco. Then you have the other California senator, Kamala Harris, who actually went to a Catholic high school in Montreal.
Oh, wow, yeah, and I got the video on my channel. She admitted to being Jesuit educated at University of San Francisco. That's where she studied for the bar. And that's been essentially erased from her biography.
Yes, so she says she did penance when she was studying for the bar exam. She did her penance at University of San Francisco.
Absolutely, and that's why she's Joe Biden's running mate.
And of course,
he covered up for the church, Archbishop William Levada, who became a cardinal after that pedophilia scandal, and then became the head of the Inquisition, the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith. I believe William Levada was the highest-ranking American in the Roman Curia. But yeah, he was the Archbishop in San Francisco when Harris buried all of the sex abuse scandals.
Oh yes, I have a backlog of videos of yours I need to watch. And by the way, those who've not seen Eric's channel, I would highly recommend it. Eric777. Watch his videos. And if you can, catch the videos he did, or the interviews a couple months ago he did with Zach Hubbard. It basically, if you just want to get a quick tutorial about what Johnny and I have been talking about for the last 2 years, just watch one of those videos. I would recommend both of them. But it's just like Zach, I mean, he's basically like an American version, a slightly older American version of you. And I know he puts a heavy emphasis on gematria, or gematria, however you say it. But man, people need to watch that. And of course,
thanks, George. I appreciate that. And Zach does great work. Actually, I'm going to be. I think his new book is out, available now for purchase. Like Numbers Game from 9/11 to the coronavirus. And I'm going to be. I'm going to try to pick up a copy of that, and I hope I can do more work with Zach Hubbard. I'm glad that you enjoyed the interview so much, and I hope everyone else enjoyed that as well. I've seen that's one of the more viewed videos on my channel, so I think that has gotten good reception, which is nice to see.
Okay, can I just mention one last thing? I know the show is almost over, but the other night I put myself through the 2016 Marky Mark film Patriot Day, and is about the Boston Marathon bombing of 2013. And we talked about that today on Johnny's show. And
is that the Wahlberg movie, Catholic Mark Wahlberg?
Yes, and of course, you had more Jesuits in that movie than a gay pride parade in terms of, say, actors or actresses or the actual characters they portrayed, like Tom Marino or Tom Menino, the governor of, the mayor of Boston at the time. It's just like almost all your key figures were Catholic or Catholic educated, and I won't rehash that. But one of the things I will mention is the Red Sox won the World Series that year. And I know you've talked about, like, was it New England? The Patriots won the Super Bowl for the first time in 2001, if I'm not mistaken. That bombing was almost predictive programming for who's going to win the World Series because everybody's rooting for the underdog. Of course, the Red Sox. They overcame such adversity.
Oh, absolutely. No, very much. The NFL kind of did the same thing after the Hurricane Katrina in Jesuit New Orleans. They gifted the Saints with the devout Roman Catholic Bensons as the owners. They gave the Saints a Super Bowl after Hurricane Katrina.
Oh,
kind of same type of tactic. And of course, if people aren't aware, the New Orleans Saints, like their team is literally a reference to being made a saint in the Roman Catholic Church or the process of canonization. And like the Archbishop of New Orleans actually helped the team come up with the name back in the 60s. They used the Gnostic or Roman fleur de lis as their symbol.
Okay, but yeah, I wonder. I guess the whole idea, like they want to be Catholic, like Boy Burger probably wouldn't have gone over too well, so they decided to choose something a little bit more neutral. So.
Sorry, I was just pulling up. I'm pulling up just a link here. Yeah, George, I do want to. If Alex is still there, if you guys have any closing thoughts, I'd like to just because it's getting late here. I'd like to be out of here in about 5 minutes or so.
Okay, so
I don't have anything to say for the closing thoughts. But all I'll just say is if people want to look for things on the Chinese or things or books on the Chinese intelligence apparatus, there are books available out there, but they will never mention that the Jesuits control the Chinese intelligence apparatus at all.
Well, actually, that's a great point. I think that's the epitome of what Jesuit trained Steve Bannon does at Georgetown. Always gaslighting how China, like we blame China for the coronavirus. He's always talking about China. Says a lot of true stuff about China. Brings up how China has like the Uyghurs in the concentration camps. Brings up like the draconian police state measures, for instance. But Bannon never ever makes the connection that it's the Roman Catholic Church and the Jesuits that are controlling communist China, working together in tandem with the CIA. And that's because Bannon's trying to create kind of like a new ideological Cold War between the U.S. and China. That's kind of the rhetoric coming out of the Heritage Foundation, the CIA think tank at Georgetown, CSIS, the Center for Strategic International Studies, which I think is that has to just be a coincidence, right? That the biggest I would say that has to just be a coincidence that the biggest CIA think tank is on the campus of Georgetown University, CSIS. But CSIS is kind of promoting this new Cold War rhetoric with China. So it's pitting the two against each other when in reality, like all the evidence shows that like they're working together. Much like how the KGB worked with the CIA, back in the Cold War era. History repeats itself, they say.
Well, and of course, something you mentioned before, Eric, is was it Felix Cherchesky founded the Cheka over 100 years ago, which ultimately morphed into the KGB. It became, before that, it was known as the NKVD, heavy emphasis on VD. So and Felix Cherchesky was a Polish Roman Catholic who was trained by the Jesuits, was actually a Jesuit seminarian himself.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Felix Dzerzhinsky. Fantastic. Yeah, it's a great point. A Polish Roman Catholic was the founder of the Soviet secret police. Like, how Jesuitical is that?
And of course,
were you trying to jump in, Alex?
There's something I forgot to mention about Zhou Enlai is that he also had connections with Jesuit-trained Stalin as well. I think it was around the 1940s. Zhou Enlai was actually in the Jesuit-controlled Russia at that time, or the Soviet Union.
Well, very actually, that makes a ton of sense because Stalin and Mao Zedong, had a very, very close relationship as well. But Zhou Enlai was. That's very interesting. That Zhou Enlai. I don't know if you were there for that, George, but Zhou Enlai, one of the founders of the Communist Party, was close friends with Martin Lee's father, and Martin Lee is one of the Roman Catholics who is the founder of the Hong Kong democracy movement.
Oh, well, I didn't know that, but I suppose we can go on for hours, and I realize it's coming up. It's about I guess 1:45 in the morning Eastern, and I guess it's coming up on 6 p.m. It's about 5:45 p.m. In New Zealand. So that reminds me of a whole bunch of things. Like, I guess we'll have to do this again as soon as possible, time permitting. And well, thank you for having me on, Eric, and thank you for joining us, Alex. I'm sorry for being late. And of course, something I'd like to talk about, hopefully, the next time we do a show is I like to get a little bit more into predictive programming in terms of, say, films and music and things like that, because there's all sorts of examples of that going back further than the 1960s. So this is part of the psychological operation, the psychological warfare of altering people's behavior. Because something you mentioned before, Eric, this is a broadcast you did a couple of years ago, that one of the fathers of modern advertising is running a blank. He's a nephew or a son-in-law of Freud, Bernays.
Oh yeah, Edward Bernays, yeah.
Yes, Edward Bernays. I don't have his dates in front of me, but he's obviously 20th century. So his attitude is, if you want to manipulate people' behavior, if you want them to vote for your candidate, buy your product, you need to basically trick them. I'm just paraphrasing, to basically vote for somebody who's not actually is really in their best. Vote for somebody who's not actually in their best interest, and to buy a product they really don't want or need. Would that seem like an accurate summary?
Oh, absolutely. Everyone should read Edward Bernays' book, Propaganda. He wrote that in 1927, but that's like a classic, kind of like a blueprint on how the Jesuits manipulate society. Bernays actually opens the book, the very first page, he literally says there's like an unseen hand in society that controls the thoughts of the masses and controls like world politics. I'm paraphrasing. That's like on the first page of his book. He's literally outlining kind of like the Jesuit control structure or the power structure in the first page of his book, Propaganda, which is on my archive.org page. And I wanted to mention, because I said I would bring up the New York Times article just earlier in the show, but the New York Times article where it shows that Roman Catholic Martin Lee of the Hong Kong democracy movement's father having a relationship with the founder of the first premier of the Communist Party, Zhou Enlai. But the article is called "The Father of Democracy Caught Between Hong Kong's Extremes" by the New York Times, if people want to get a hold of that and download it. But but it is getting late. Does any last closing thoughts? Last like 30 seconds or so before we sign off, guys. And I think we should do this again. I thoroughly enjoyed the stream with you guys. I think we put a lot of good information out there. So if you guys want to do it again sometime,
sure.
Just let me know, and I think we can set it up.
That's all I have, and I've provided new information on the Chinese intelligence apparatus, as that had to be brought out, since worked on a different fashion to it's actually much better than the Catholics in action, apparently. Just letting your listeners know.
Okay.
Well, that's great information. When you think about it, it's a country of 1 billion people. China is kind of like a modern day Leviathan. And the Vatican and the Jesuits are completely behind it, as we've shown, and support it, as we've shown on this stream. And like definitely a lot of Westerners underestimate the power of the Chinese intelligence service, the Chinese intelligence apparatus.
Okay. Can I just mention something else, Eric? I mentioned this on a couple different broadcasts, including with Johnny. This is about a month ago. There is a state representative in Illinois by the name of LaShawn Ford. And he's notable for a number of reasons. About a month ago, he came out with a bill for the state of Illinois to abolish history classes at their schools, K through 12. He's a black man from Chicago, Cabrini Green. And he said, well, we should stop teaching history because it promotes racism and systemic racism and white supremacy. As it just so happens, Ford went to Ignatius Preparatory School in Chicago and also went to Loyola Chicago Seminary with the intention of becoming a priest. But I guess the Jesuit said, you know what, LaShawn, we think you can better serve us in politics. And I know this whole
thing. Didn't LaShawn Ford get cleared for like some fraud charges also?
17. He was looking at decades behind jail.
Oh, he was looking at decades? Wow, I didn't realize it was that serious. Jeez. Yeah, so that's some Jesuit backing that cleared him of that, no doubt.
So they probably said, okay, LaShawn, we're going to make all those charges disappear. However, we're probably going to need your services down the road. And it says, okay.
George, I just had I apologize for cutting you off. I just had a light bulb go off. Has this Jesuit trained LaShawn Ford endorsed the 1619 project?
Okay, that I don't know, but it would not surprise me. So yes, we'll have to pick that up.
Because maybe that'd be a good topic for another show. But I know you saw the info on this, and I did the digging up. But the founder of the 1619 project connects back to Rome. Nicole Hannah Jones. What was her?
She went to Notre Dame.
Yeah, Catholic Notre Dame. Yeah, and as I pulled up, she's said a bunch of like bigoted statements against white people.
Well, and of course,
kind of inflaming it's kind of inflaming the BLM mob. And like, even like the founder of Black Lives Matter Toronto, I forget the woman's name, but you can find this article. Like, the head of Black Lives Matter Toronto is saying that white people are genetic defects, like recessive defects. And
okay,
but this is kind of coming like that same rhetoric from LaShawn Ford saying like, oh, we can't teach history because it's racist. To me, it's all and again, the Jesuits control both sides of racism. The Jesuits control the extreme white supremacist wing and the extreme black supremacist wing, but they're really kind of create like a race war right now with all these agent provocateurs like Nicole Hannah Jones going in public and saying all these kind of racially divisive things.
Well, and of course, Ford's boss, as I said, he's in the Illinois legislature, assembly, I guess, in Springfield. Well, his boss is Michael Madigan, the father of Lisa Madigan. Yes, that Lisa Madigan. Madigan he got his undergrad degree from Notre Dame. He went to Loyola Chicago Law School. He went to Ignatius Prep School, and he went to some Catholic school. So he has something like 20 years of Catholic/Jesuitical education, and of course has paid dividends. Madigan, who was born in 1942, has been in the Illinois legislature since 1971, so almost half a century. He has been the Speaker of the Illinois House since 1983, almost 40 years. And as I said, his daughter, Lisa Madigan, was the Attorney General of Illinois. She, I believe, went to Georgetown University. So
Yeah, that's like that's unprecedented. How long he's it shows the incredible corruption that he's been in power for so long. There's Madigan in Illinois, and his daughter becomes the attorney general. His daughter also Jesuit trained. Daughter also then covers up for the pedophiles subsequently in the state.
And of course, that is systemic institutional corruption. I mean, it's just like, it's just like they have corruption kind of coming out of their ears. It's just like they must have it's just something that flows through their veins or something.
Well, think of like another great example, like John Dingell, Jesuit educated at Georgetown, was literally 60 years, Michigan congressman for 60 years. Like, are you kidding me? That'll never get like not outrageous. Like 60 years, and then he hands off his seat to his wife, who's also Jesuit trained. Like, what an outrage!
So, boy, I'm glad we don't have royalty in America.
Actually, Uncanny Valley too just commented this, like Hillary and Trump are cousins. It's a great point. Almost all American presidents are related to each other, which kind of shows, again, like there's the illusion that there isn't a royalty class in America, and the Jesuits have kind of set up like a perfect illusion to hide that. But all of the presidents, are openly related to each other, even, which shows that there's a select class of society that breeds candidates for president of the United States. That would be the moneyed aristocratic class. But we should wrap it up here, guys. But yeah, do you have one final closing thought, George, before we sign off?
Yes, Donald Trump Jr., Donald Trump II. He's divorced. His first wife, Maureen, or his ex-wife, Maureen, went to Loyola Marymount, Manhattan, where she got her undergrad degree. Now, he's currently single, and his new girlfriend is Kim Guilfoyle, the ex-wife of Gavin Newsom.
Oh, wow. No, just repeat that connection there. Newsom.
Okay, Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. So I just want to make sure I heard that right. So Donald Trump Jr. is now indirectly related to Gavin Newsom.
Well, not directly. His current girlfriend is Kim Guilfoyle. Well, yes. Now, Kim Guilfoyle, however you say it, she was married to Gavin Newsom.
Oh, the Fox. You talking about like the Fox News personality, Kim Guilfoyle? Like she went to
yes.
She went to Jesuit University. Oh, okay.
Okay, so this is yet another example of how everything truly. Donald Trump is correct. The election is rigged.
Well, that's why I think. Well, that's why Trump does, I think, have so many working class supporters, because he does kind of gaslight them about. Well, he's the only candidate that does say like the system is rigged, but Trump is completely part of the rigged system. But he gaslights his followers into making them think that he's, trying to do something about it.
Well,
but yeah, I think that just we should get going, George. I know we've said it. I've said it a few times that we're closing up, but
okay.
If you do have one last final point, mention it, and then I'll cut it off after you finish.
Okay, so will you be doing Johnny's show tomorrow?
Yeah, I should be. I'm not working till 5 o'clock or so. Yeah, so I should be able to do this Rucci team brief tomorrow.
Okay, so and we're so obviously know how Discord works. And by the way, I prefer StreamYard, but oh well, you had to go with whatever is available. So I look forward to doing this show again with you as soon as possible, Eric and
Okay.
Alex, and I guess I'll talk to you soon.
Before I finish, I've got something to say to Johnny. I hope I've provided you some new information on the Chinese intelligence apparatus, which had to be seriously brought out, and that are my final closing point.
Okay, so I guess we'll talk soon. We'll take care, Eric, and take care, Alex.
Yeah,
Take care.
both take care, both of you. Thanks so much for coming on. I had lots of fun. I hope the viewers enjoyed it as well. And yeah, if you want to do another stream sometime, Alex, just send me an email.
I will.
Or you got my Discord too.
I will, Eric.
Oh, sounds good. No, thanks again, man. Had lots of fun.
Have a nice sleep, Eric.
You too, man. Take care.
On the series brief tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow on the team brief. For sure,
Thank
man.
you. Have a nice
Yeah, take
evening.
care. You as well, and everyone in the chat, have a nice evening as well. I'll see you around.
Thank you.